We really appreciate you joining us here today for migrating cloud platforms for scalable solutions. We are very excited. I see some new faces. I see some familiar folks. For those that are new, thank you so much for tuning in. Really glad that you came across this program. My name is Jacob Evans-Smith. I'm the community director for Collider, your host for the evening. I'm joined by my right hand, Ryan Robinson, who's not necessarily my right hand on your screen. Ryan, wave to the people, say hello.
Hello.
Beautiful. Ryan runs the Collider community along with me. So you might be wondering, well, what the heck is Collider? Collider is effectively a community hub for technology leaders like yourselves to connect and explore innovative solutions. Those solutions are typically, we focus on what we call digital business. So it's this idea of breaking down barriers between the technology side of a tech business and the business side of the tech business so that everybody can be talking together and speaking the same language to drive more efficient innovation. So that's kind of at the core of everything we do. It's all about building community. And in that vein, today's conversation is definitely intended to be interactive. So we strongly encourage you, if the presentation is moving too quick, if there's something that's confusing, please ask questions. If you have specific insight to share, if you've gone through a similar process or seen something similar, and you have an insight to share, please speak up. You could either chime in. It's usually easier just by, in a virtual program to drop it in the chat, and we can work it in as quickly as possible. But the intention for this program is certainly to be an interactive discussion. Yvonne's going to be driving the conversation with the presentation, but that is all intended to spur a conversation. Speaking of which, after this program, this is just the kicking off point. The expectation is that we're not going to walk away with all being experts in migrating cloud platforms, but rather this is intended to be a jumping off point. We'll be following up with some different resources, as well as a YouTube link of this presentation to reference later. And we encourage everyone to join us in what we call Collider Slack. So we have an active Slack workspace dedicated to driving this type of conversation. So we encourage you to join there. Join us in the DevOps and Cloud channel, I think is probably most relevant for this particular conversation. And we're excited, Yvonne's in there. We're excited to keep the conversation rocking after today's live discussion. The asynchronous talk continues in Slack. As I already mentioned, the event is being recorded. We'll be sharing a YouTube link later. And now, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started with today's conversation. Again, we're talking all about cloud migration. This is intended to be kind of an introduction to that topic where we're talking kind of broadly speaking on what goes into what to consider with migrating cloud solutions, how to minimize surface disruptions, all those types of things. And we are joined by a subject matter expert, Yvonne Gakuba, a software engineer at Altimetric, our parent company, who works full-time at Ford Motor Company. Yvonne is extremely knowledgeable in a wide range of topics, and has notably been working on a team that has been migrating, if I'm not mistaken, from Amazon Web Services to Google Cloud over the past however many months. He'll be able to tell you a lot more about that. So without further ado, Yvonne, please take it away and let the people know in a bit more detail what we'll be diving into today.
Hello, everybody. So like Jacob said, my name is Yvonne Gakuba, and I am a software engineer at Altimetric. I've been working with Altimetric for 3 years now. I joined Ford 3 years ago on a project called Smart Charging. We are in electrical vehicles world. If you guys know about the Mark E, so that car is an Ford EV vehicle that I worked on. The idea was to develop like a smart charging algorithm that kind of like it helps like kind of like let you kind of learn like your routine, and then helps you maximize your charging spots that you have, because in the US, kind of like the electricity is not both the same. The prices are kind of different depending on the times of the day. So we were trying to kind of like minimize the cost of you charging your car while charging from your home, and then maybe maximize more your charging windows when you're at work, because maybe it might be like free and stuff like that. And now I'm currently working on another car. It's the Ford F-150. Ford F-150 is going to have an option called bidirectional, whereby you could charge your car from your house. But what if there's no power at your place? Could you use your car to actually power your house? So that is what I've been working on. So my kind of like technology stack, I'm a Java Spring developer, but I touch a little bit on the UI. I've been working with React and Vue.js as a front end, languages that I've been using, but also cloud-wise, Azure, and recently we are migrating to Google Cloud. And this is kind of like where the whole talk came into. Like I was having a chat with Ryan and Jacob, and they were asking about what I was working on, and trying to give them like a little background. And they were like, "Hey, could you come and talk a little bit about what you've been working on?" And yeah, that's kind of like my background in a few sentences. Yeah, I've went through the chart a little bit, and then I've seen like some people who do not really have like background in cloud migration, some that have like maybe like basic, and then some others that maybe might be like more familiar with the subject. So this is more like a talk. Like feel free to jump in, feel free to add to what I'll be sharing. It doesn't need to be like only me talking. So it's more like I want to understand like where everybody is at, and to try like help each other. So feel free to jump in, feel free to share your thoughts if you like, for the folks that I've seen that already have some experience with it. So yeah, your ideas or your thoughts about it, or if you work for a company that already went through this, feel free to share. Yeah, so the take on what I want us to kind of like what I had in mind of the discussion what we're gonna talk about was more like, let's start simple, like basic stuff. Let's talk about cloud computing. What is it? What was like having servers like on premises, and then later on moving to cloud, and then later on now, what if I was on this cloud, but given the business that I am on and there's a better cloud, how do I move from the cloud I was on, let's say AWS, or let's say you're on Azure or Google Cloud, and then you're moving from cloud to cloud, or from on premises to cloud. Yeah, that's the whole idea of what I wanted us to talk about. It won't be too technical. It's more like ideas, and then it's more like concepts, and then try to like break this through, and then try to understand what this is all about. And then yeah, maybe we could later on schedule like another talk to go more technical about all this. Okay. So what is cloud computing? So before, like what companies used to do is they used to have these servers, like data centers and servers, where they would just deploy and host their data. And then later on, companies like AWS started building all over the world like data centers for their own business. And then later on, they find out like, what if we could, this is like, what if we could, because we are available in a lot of countries, what if we could just start renting our data servers and then rent it to different companies instead of just using it for our own? So they started building APIs for, like other companies to now um, start, acquiring services from them. Like, what I mean by acquiring services is acquiring, data centers, using data centers from these other big companies that already were available in different area of the world. The cloud computing kind of was born like that. So it's an on-demand delivery IT resource, such as servers, networks, databases, storage, that you can get via internet, and then there's a pretty much a lot of ways that you could pay, and then like there's a lot of plans that that you can get. Now, why and who and why using cloud computing? So, like I said, basically, so from like small to largest organization, everybody uses cloud computing. You can use it either because you want to do data backup, you can use it because you want to do like disaster recovery, email. We've known like Gmail, and some other email cloud. There's software development and testing. Others can use it for big data analytics. So everything is like, you can use cloud computing, for one of these reasons, or even, more than that. Now, the benefits of, why you would want to go from on premises. What I mean by on premises, it's more like your company owns the servers. They have their own data centers. That's what I call on premises. Now, going on cloud, it's more you are going to something like AWS, you're going to something like Google Cloud, that already, what those companies, like I've already talked about it, what it did is they already built a lot of data centers around the world. And what you are going to get when you move to cloud, what you're getting is agility. So what you're getting basically when you say agility is broad range of technologies. So when you build your own data centers, sometimes if like, let me talk programming languages, some of some of the resource that you might have might be, let's say, only for a given technology. But when you're going on cloud, they already address all those issues. They support multiple development languages, or they support, there's a lot of technology that they already have that you might not have on premises, or if you were to bring it on premises, it might cost you a lot of money. So when you go to on cloud, you get that agility, then elasticity, no need of over provisioning resources, so you scale as you want. Like, if you own your own data centers, it's very difficult for you to expand it. But when when you are on cloud, you can scale as you want. You can scale up or scale down depending on the need that you have currently. There's cost savings that comes with it, as you pay as you consume. If you consume a lot, you're eventually going to pay a lot. But if you don't have much, if you don't consume a lot, then what happens is you just pay fewer. And the thing is, for startup companies, it's better because you can start small, because you're paying as you consume, and then as your company grows, then you start paying more and more. But it also goes with your revenues, because now, since you're getting much more clients, that means you are expanding, and then you have the means to pay what you are consuming. Then the other thing is, you can deploy globally in terms of minutes, because again, we used to only have premises. You might have, let's say, if it's a company in the US, you might only have, you could only have data centers maybe in the US. But now the cloud is everywhere. They are in multiple countries. So when you deploy, you're not only deploying something locally in your country, but you could, deploy anywhere where the cloud you're deploying on is available, depending on where you have maybe lots of clients, and you could just deploy in those areas. That type of cloud computing, there's infrastructure as a service, there's platform as a service, there's software as a service. Yeah. And then so this, yeah. Now, yeah. So that was pretty much what cloud computing is, and in a few words. Any questions so far, or are we all good? Can't see the charts right now.
No questions in the chat. We'll let you know if anything pops up in the chat. But yeah, let's give it just one more second. Does anybody is this feeling good? Anybody have any questions? Any other thoughts to share? Anything that you feel like you might have missed? We got an all good.
Sweet. Yeah, cool. that were kind of like the basic stuff to start with. We're all good. Okay.
All right, we're good. We're good.
Cool. Now, cloud migration. With cloud migration, what is all about relocating organizations' data, applications, or workloads to cloud infrastructure. It can go, when you go from your premises to cloud, that's cloud migration. When you go from one cloud to another, that's also cloud migration. So now I've tried to summarize a little bit, what different cloud kind of like offers. Why exactly would you want to go from one cloud to another? It all depends on the business. Today, I cannot tell you that, this one is better than the other one. It depends on what your business is looking for. So like, for instance, right now, currently AWS owns like a big stake of the market. One of the reasons is, they are highly experienced. They came before others. And then, they came before the others, but they also have different services that, that they offer. And their documentation is kind of like very good, which is also for other companies. Like when we go to like Azure, as we all know, is owned by Microsoft. Microsoft already had, used to provide like servers for all these big companies. So somehow companies were tied with them even before. And what actually you get from like something like Azure is because they already have like Microsoft product, like Microsoft tools. So their cloud kind of integrates easily with what they already have. And then there's Google Cloud, and what they specializes in more is in high compute offerings like, big data and machine learning. Google Cloud is kind of like, for me though, it kind of like is advanced compared to these other two. There are others, but these are the more like the giants of the others. But yeah, again, what we have to keep in mind is there's like companies migrate from one cloud to another depending on their business. It's not today. I'll just give an example. Like today, I might be like, okay, AWS, maybe there's something that is interesting with Alexa, and then my business would want to would want to integrate Alexa into whatever I'm working on. So it benefits my company to move from maybe Azure to AWS, because I'm going to have all these Alexa features that will be easily integrated into my own business. So I'll just go towards AWS because it fits what is my business. Someone else would be on AWS, but because he needs a service, or maybe because maybe 80% of the resources the person already was using, like let's say like Microsoft tools, were coming from Microsoft, and then Microsoft is saying, hey, if you come to our cloud, I'll give you 20%, 20%. I want, I'll just give you 20% reduction on how much you should be paying if you join us. And then I would be like, okay, because Microsoft already knows that they're getting some, like money from the tools that they're already, selling to you, and they want to keep you. So they would give you like a 20% reduction for you to join their cloud, and then you just move. And then for others, they would want to join something like, let's say, Google Cloud, because it fits their technology or what they want to do. Let's say, for instance, if you are working on data, like you're analyzing like big data, and then Google Cloud will kind of like, for me, I would be like, okay, Google Cloud is giving me all these options for me to be able to do like big data and machine learning kind of things. So I would go towards Google Cloud. So it's not only feature wise that companies will tend to go towards one cloud compared to the other. They also come in there. There's relationship involved. There's advantages that they'll be getting depending on what service they need.
That's super interesting, Ivan. That makes a ton of sense. I hope that sounds good to everybody. We've got some great questions in the chat. And first of all, you turned Ryan's Alexa on by all that Alexa talk. So.
I did.
Which is hilarious. And I was just curious, I'm going to dive into these questions. One question to start. So you're describing kind of the reason that a company might choose different solutions, might switch. At Ford, it's my understanding that different teams are actually within this large company are actually using different cloud platforms. Has that been a common experience that you've seen that for a large enough company that you might even be using multiple at the same time?
Yes. So in one company, there might be like some companies are like really, really huge, and they have a lot of products, and depending on what product they are working on, some of these cloud gives you more how to explain this, gives you more, it makes it easier for you to like go for them instead of others. I'll give you an example. There's like this feature where there's like a car, and let's say, for instance, there's like a company car, like a car company that are working, that is integrating with like Alexa or like Alexa. So if they have like this business whereby instead of Amazon delivering to your place, if they could deliver in your car while you are at office, right? And they'll just come in and they deliver right in your trunk or something like that. So that, because maybe, they want to integrate with Alexa, and that's easy because that's the business, came with Amazon, and then they connected with any car company, and that makes sense for them to go for this one because that is advantageous for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I believe so. And Ayush, I'm curious, Ayush asked, would love to get your thoughts on pros and cons of multi-cloud solution versus single cloud. Is that what you mean there, Ayush, or is that a term that I'm not familiar with, saying multi-cloud?
Yeah. So like people like companies might, want to go for multi-cloud. Again, it all again depends on the business they're doing and who they're doing it with and when it benefits them to do it. Maybe the con, maybe, I don't know. Yeah. Talking about pros and cons is there's always going to be, if sometimes if you want to rotate, like, your development people or like your devs or something, you might not be easy because you'll be using a lot of clouds that if you might want to like move one of your developers from one project to another, but they're using different clouds and he was not really maybe comfortable with where he's moving. One of the things is he's gonna he'll start slow because he needs to learn the new things that he's going to, but also, yeah, if you think about it in terms of the developer, I'm more like into learning a lot of things. So moving to where there's something that I don't know and then I get to learn, it's always like a plus. But yeah, if there could be like that problem where if you are moving resources and you are on multi-clouds, then people might have issues or they might run into a little bit of time. They will take time for them to like acclimate to the new environment they're going into. But you'll find out there's a lot of team in one company, they might be on different clouds depending on the project and what it's doing and what it brings and where it's easy to like business people to kind of like come up with agreements and stuff.
Got you. And for the new people joining, welcome. We're still pretty early in the talk, so if you have any questions on kind of where we're at, we just have basically covered kind of what is cloud computing, how did we get here, and we've been talking about the comparison between different platforms. Thank you, Ayush, for specifying. I hope we answered the question pretty much there. But just to kind of reorient, like the conversation that we're looking to drive here is specifically that, Ayush, is the kind of this this overlap between tech and business, where like there's all sorts of considerations that a team might choose one or the other. It might be technical, it might be a business decision, and as a technical professional, it really behooves you to understand kind of both pieces of that equation, so that you can be positioning yourself in a way where you're adding the most value for your team. So I know that's the perspective that Yvonne brings to the table, and that's really what we're kind of advocating for here, and kind of the nature of this conversation. So appreciate you bringing that up. One more question, Yvonne, before we move on. Eiffel had a great question here, a fellow Altimetrian, I should note, based in Mexico. And if I'm not mistaken, is a data engineer. So Eiffel, curious if your experience, I'm curious if you're working with Google Cloud for what Yvonne mentioned a moment ago. The question here is there any boundary when people ask for a cloud engineer versus SRE versus software engineer, talking about working in cloud migration and the activities each role is intended to do? So could you kind of speak at a high level, Yvonne, about kind of those different roles and what why somebody would be specifying one versus the other?
Can you repeat that? Kind of got lost.
Yeah, that's okay. So like the kind of the difference between a cloud engineer versus a site reliability engineer versus a software engineer, kind of what, as we talk about cloud migration, what activities or what aspect of this that we're discussing might each of those different roles kind of touch in this process? I guess might be a way to approach that.
Okay, so like the environment I come from, we have more, I feel like developers are also cloud engineers in a sense where the migration is being done by software engineers, but there has to always be like cloud engineers that are certified, that understands what they're trying to do, that comes into play before, and they kind of like set up the whole infrastructure before you even dive in as a software engineer. And like we'll talk a little bit about the plan, the way that the plan comes in play, and where everybody kind of like like kind of like lay in the whole architecture. But what is sure is you are going to need, like, cloud engineers. You're going to need your SREs. You're going to need your software engineers to be kind of like aligned. Some companies, software developers only touch code. They don't know anything about pipelines or like when it comes to CI/CD pipelines, they don't do anything. They never really touch any cloud things. And then for some other companies, software engineers are in charge of kind of like from writing the code to having pipelines and then deploy to the cloud. They kind of do that. So it depends on where you are, but all those roles needs to have needs to be in the picture when you are doing cloud migration. I don't know if that answers the question.
Ifo, is that a good answer to the question? And any follow up or clarification there? We'll give just a second, and then yeah, these are fantastic questions and comments, everybody. So please keep these coming. I just dropped a note for those that joined us late. Again, the intention here is to be a kickoff conversation. We're talking with Yvonne about possibly doing another talk soon, where we keep this going and take a deeper dive, as well as we intend to continue the conversation in Collider Slack after the fact. So this is the jumping off point. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you. And yeah, Yvonne, let's keep moving, and then if any other questions come up, I'll let you know.
Yeah, and then yeah, I want to make this like a discussion. So if anyone has his or her own experience, please share with us so that we kind of like complement each other.
Before you dive in, so Bryant just noted, would love to learn more about the considerations for a multi-cloud implementation. I know you touched on it kind of a little bit. Is there kind of, it sounds, Brian, my understanding of on is that it's just a bit contextual. So Brian, I'm just wondering if you have a specific concept in mind when you're asking that question, or just wondering. But yeah, and feel free to unmute and chime in if that's easier.
Hey guys, actually that is a bit easier. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I was just wondering, at the implementation level, just I know you touched on it briefly, but I was just mentioning that maybe for like the next conversation, possibly doing like a deeper dive, as you mentioned, into like, this is like the best practices for a hybrid cloud solution, just like at a technical level, even, because there are some things I'm actually looking to do that right now. So I've started the research for that. So that's something that I would be interested in learning more of.
Okay.
Awesome. Noted.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. All right, proceed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit with like about some, like when you're doing cloud migration, like of a tool that is kind of like very, very helpful to kind of like do that. Maybe that's something that will give you like a hint on how to something you would want to look into. So yeah, let's keep going. So here, now how do you kind of like prepare your team for migration? So there's like business partner engagement. So what you want to do is you want to work with business partner to develop like a long-term strategy on their cloud shift initiatives. And then also you want to onboard the team so they are able to kind of like successfully deploy cloud technologies. Then the second point I have here is project prioritization and alignment. What we are trying to do here is to try to manage project and request pipeline. Keep in mind that when it's a big company, it's not only one project, right? You might it might be like one company, but that has different project. If you think like something like big like Google, they might have YouTube, they might have Gmail. There's a lot of project that they have. It's not only one. So business partner engagement and project prioritization, that is something that they definitely have to consider. Then there's a service strategy and enablement, whereby you have to work with service and your architecture teams to kind of like match capabilities and offerings with your business partner requirements. Another thing is cloud service enhancements, whereby you want to work with your cloud your cloud provider to kind of like identify and and plan and manage the delivery of additional capabilities, to fill if you have any service gaps. And then you also want to kind of like document and prioritize all marketplace and other contractual requests. And then lastly, there's like cloud integration team that you're going to need, that is going to ensure that the four things that I talked about above are aligned to kind of like provide seamless experience. And then you want also to kind of like enable consistent messaging to your teams and to your cloud provider. And then you're always going to need like your cloud engineers to kind of like be there and then help the whole team. So so basically these are like the five things you want to keep in mind, like your business partner engagement. You want to do the project prioritization for you to know like this project will go first. They kind of like lay down the roadmap on, you already have a roadmap, but if in the middle you find that while moving one project from one cloud to another, maybe your roadmap missed a few points, and then you're kind of using it as a case study, and then keep improving like the roadmap you already dressed out. Then you also have to like have like a service strategy and enablement. Then you need to also involve your cloud partner that you're working with. Like if there's maybe gaps that you feel like, okay, these service gaps might be filled in, then you could just add those throw those ones into, and then also make sure that you have a cloud integration team that is going to help will help your like those projects to kind of like seemingly do the transition from one cloud to another.
Got it. And we've got a question from Caroline here. So just how much direct engagement from the Google team was, if any, was needed for the migration? That's a great question.
They will provide like teams that will help you do the cloud. Like if you have questions that you want to ask, if maybe you are having issues while doing like migration of one service on another, there's always going to be a need to have your cloud partner to kind of like talk to, like to be around the engineers, to be around and then help you guys find solutions to that. So most of the time they work with your cloud engineers to kind of like help you guys throughout the way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, a couple of quick. We're getting a nod. Yes, a couple of quick questions that I have. So first of all, when you talk about the business partner engagement for a smaller company just doing an internal implementation, is my understanding correct that the business partner in that case would basically just be the leadership, the business leadership at the company?
Yes.
So it'd be the technology leadership would be coming together, the business leadership, to determine, does this make sense from a business standpoint? Does this make sense from a technology standpoint? And moving forward from there. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I was just curious to know, like, at a company as big as Ford, I imagine there's a ton of data that there's a ton that goes into this. How long is the entire integration going to take in total to shift from Azure to Google Cloud? How long is it expected to take?
So it's divided into waves, and it takes time because there's some setups that are involved. There's first they will do like all these setups that goes in the background, and then now the teams they will come up with like a set of kind of like what is it called? Kind of like trainings that the teams will have to do in order for them to kind of like migrate their applications, database, whatever they have to cloud. It takes kind of like a long time. Right now, we're talking more like we've been working on this for kind of like my team. We started working on this kind of like in January this year. So, and we're still, it's still an ongoing thing.
Got it. Cool. Sorry, please continue. That's awesome.
Okay. So yeah, now I'll go to Terraform. Does people here have experience with Terraform or ever heard about Terraform before?
Not outside of Elon Musk talking about Mars.
Yeah, I see. Simpson.
We got a few yeses in the house. We got one no, a few yeses. I'm a no. We're about split 50-50.
Okay. So so like Terraform, what is all about? Terraform is it's an infrastructure as a code. It's a tool that what it does is it lets you kind of like define both cloud and on-prem resources into like human readable configuration files that you can kind of like version or reuse and kind of like share. So basically what this like all these clouds, they kind of have like APIs that Terraform this, which is like this tool here, that what it's is kind of like a code as a, as it's an infrastructure. So what basically you're doing is you're kind of like coding infrastructure, and then your Terraform is going to connect to these the APIs of, can be like, let's say for instance AWS or Google. I was reading here. Eiffel is saying it's a really good tool, and he loves it. Yeah, it's a really nice tool. So yeah, and then it's going to connect to the cloud APIs, and it's what it's going to do is it's going to kind of like analyze what you had, and then see the files that you already kind of like described before, and then it's going to use those workflow to kind of like provision and manage all your infrastructure throughout its like life cycle. So what it does, it just manage low-level components like compute, storage, networking resources, as well as high-level components like DNS entries and SAS features. So basically, it's just a tool that you're going to use to kind of like provision for provision. So it's really easy when you are migrating from one cloud to another. What you're doing is you're writing those files, and then this Terraform is going to analyze your existing, and then it's going to come up with kind of like a strategy to help you start creating. You can use it for different things. It could just do like help you for when it comes to network, compute, or storage. It goes into all that. Or even if you want to migrate databases and stuff, it's going to be there and it's going to help you. So the way it kind of like work, we can wonder like how does it do that? So what it does is it creates and then it manages resources on cloud platforms and other services through their application programming interfaces, like we said, their APIs, and then it provides enable to work with virtually any platform or service with an accessible API. So the core workflow is kind of like has these three strategies that I've kind of like wrote here. So no, like with this on this screenshot here. So you define resources, which may be across. It doesn't only work with one cloud. It can work with multiple clouds, and services. For example, might create like a configuration to deploy an application on virtual machines in a virtual private, cloud network with security groups. So that's the very first you would want to, write. The second thing is like plan, where Terraform will create an execution plan describing the infrastructure it's going to create, update, and then destroy based on the existing infrastructure and your configuration. And then the third thing it's going to do is it's going to apply. And then on approval, Terraform, what it does is it performs the proposed operations in the correct order, respecting any resource dependencies. For example, if any update in properties of a VPC and change the number of virtual machines in the VPC, then it will recreate the VPC before scaling the virtual machines up or down. The amazing thing about it, it has this option to kind of like connect to multiple clouds. It won't only connect to one, so it connects to multiple ones. So so on the roadmap, what you would have is you would have your Terraform kind of like create your let's say your resources, like let's say if it's your computers, configure your DNSs, configure load balancing and all that stuff, and then later on with your pipeline, you would start now deploying your applications later on after. Yeah, like Afel, do you want to share a little bit about your experience working with Terraform? I see that you love it.
Tuning in from Mexico, so we don't mean to put your English on the spot here. While he's considering chiming in, if anybody else has any insights or questions, yeah. I think a few other people expressed familiarity with Terraform. So does anybody else have an experience, or in general, does anyone have an experience to share with that tool for that process or a similar process?
It would be great to kind of like hear from you guys, share a little bit experience. I see we are like 5 minutes to time, so yeah. I would wanna hear a little bit about you guys. Yeah.
I felt. Are you able to unmute? I wonder if. Will you try now?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. We sure can.
Awesome. Well, yeah. As a data engineer, I have been working on different projects. Yeah, and it is more about creating different resources on the cloud. GCP and AWS mainly. And it is awesome because at the end, working with Terraform saves a lot of time. And at the same time, you can replicate all the things that you are working or you are creating on development. And once you need to deploy something else in a different environment, it is completely, it is easier, faster, and yeah, I mean, what any change that you need to do also is too easy to work on them. So yeah, at the beginning, it was a kind of confusing for me, but yeah, once you get familiar with Terraform blocks and the different resources that you need to create and manage, yeah, everything is going to be a kind of yeah, as many people say, easy peasy to work with Terraform.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Afel.
That's great.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Or just as we look to Yvonne, is this your last slide?
Yeah, this is my last slide. So I would, kind of like that's that I would, let people start like, sharing their experience or anything that they would want. If any questions I could answer. Yeah.
Yeah. As we wrap up, I just want to share. So as folks are thinking about what to share, a couple of things I just want to note. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but definitely do join the Slack link that we shared before so that we can keep this conversation going beyond just today's conversation. That's an asynchronous channel, so we can all tune in from all over the world at our own leisure and keep talking about these awesome cloud computing topics. So please do tune in there. Bryant just noted Terraform was actually what I was looking for with respect to my multi-cloud question. That's fantastic news, Bryant.
Awesome.
Love to hear that. One more shameless plug I'd love to make quickly is we have an upcoming, the next relevant event that I want to just make sure we highlight for everybody. We do a program every month on the third Thursday of each month called Mind Smash, where we bring together folks from different disciplines and different industries to bring different ideas to the forefront related to digital innovation and all things related to kind of cutting edge technology. So certainly something like cloud, Terraform and different cloud technologies is super relevant. So definitely encourage everyone to check that out. And stay tuned for future programming specifically building on today's conversation. We don't have that booked yet, but that will be coming soon. So just encourage you all to plug in. And with that, just, handing it back to you, Yvonne. Does anyone else have anything else to add, or Brian, if you'd like to expand on that, or just anything while we've got a few more minutes here together? Good deal, Brian. Awesome. That's great to hear. Glad that's insightful. Cool. Again, as we wrap up, we're at the half hour mark. So let's we're going to stick around for just a few minutes here, just to chat. So if anybody else has any thoughts, please do chime in. Thank you so much, Yvonne. That was really, really helpful context for me just to kind of understand the full landscape. I hope everybody agrees. If you thought today's talk was useful, please give us a thumbs up or whatever emoji of your choice in the chat or with the reactions. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. I see Mr. Dean Chin in the house. Thank you so much for tuning in, Dean. We got to get you sharing some insights on the wonderful world of DevOps and Kubernetes and all that good stuff real soon here.
Definitely. Thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. Dean, do you have any insight to share with regards to today's topic?
No, other than we do see a lot of folks or a lot of companies getting onto the cloud. One thing that they, I would say, struggle with is cost optimization. Initially, it's really easy to spin up resources on the cloud, but if you don't have a good strategy on how to track those resources, it can get out of hand and cost companies a lot of money. So cost optimization is definitely a struggle we see. You can do a lot of things with tagging and labels and the way that you structure your accounts or subscriptions. That can kind of help manage that. But yeah, cost optimization is a tough one.
Super interesting. Would love to dive deeper into that, but I think that's a great one to note in our follow-up conversation in Slack after the fact or with a future conversation. Appreciate you bringing that to light, Dean.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, Brian mentioned that cost optimization. Yeah, talk on that. So yeah, maybe Dean, that would be a cool talk for us to maybe dive into. I'll follow up with you just on kind of how we would maybe approach that for a future conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Great. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This was really, really amazing. Thank you, Yvonne, for putting the presentation together and for sharing your insights. Definitely looking to keep the conversation going. So yeah, well, everybody stay tuned for more information on that front. But for now, I hope you all have a good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. And we'll definitely see you all soon. Thank you so much for tuning in.